This video is the result of an exchange I had with Gambleor in response to a comment he made on the page of my video, Death Blow to Eastern Orthodoxy, Jesus and Heracles. Quick synopsis. He was attempting to show the historicity of the Jesus of the Bible. He stated that if we cannot use his evidence for the existence of Jesus, the Bible, or the evidence of religious historians that an historical Jesus existed who was the impetus for Christianity, then we cannot prove the existence of any historical figure. He was using Alexander the Great as a case study. This is where I came into the discussion. Gambleor used the same argument on me, but with Caesar. It was so absurd I ignored it. But since it's apparently what he clings to, I decided to reply. Gambleor said, "How does this differ from the accounts of Alexander the Great, who doesn't appear anywhere in any accounts until 300 years after he existed?" He also said, "We would simultaneously have to dismiss the evidence for just about every other historical figure." To that I responded, "I know you assume your God exists, but to assert that all history would not exist because that of Jesus can be ignored would require you to account for your existence sans a God. And it is the epitome of hypocrisy to say that all history can be ignored if Jesus didn't exist, but that Zeus, Thor, and Isis can't have existed if Jesus did, something you've already proven. That's special pleading, dishonest, and downright in the vein of religion." At Beelzebub, Alexander the Great was not reputed to have walked on water. That is what I told him. He's quoting me. Alexander was reputed to be the son of Zeus Ammon. Don't be silly. We can weed through certain things that seem not to make sense and construct what can be believed to be a historical account. Yes, I know. So, you've already told me what you've waded through to prove Jesus, and you've proved the existence of Heracles. You can't even understand what I'm saying about the historical Jesus doesn't include the validity of miracle claims. It includes the belief of his followers that he performed miracles. No one in the historical community has said that Jesus actually performed miracles, and neither am I saying that in this forum. I am strictly and solely arguing that the historical Jesus is believed to have existed. I get what you're saying. You don't get what I'm saying. I'll spell it out for you. How ridiculous is this? By your account, there was a guy that lived named Jesus. But not only that, he has to be the only guy living ever that was named Jesus before the Bible was written. I'm not disputing a guy named Jesus existed. I'm not disputing a guy named Tom, Dick, or Harry existed either. I'm only interested in the Jesus of the Bible. Telling me guys named Jesus lived leaves you where you started. Nowhere. Dude, forget the "I'll spell it out for you" comment. I think I know where I confused you. By saying you can't prove the existence of a non-miraculous guy. What I meant is he's still the one you Christians are referring to in the Bible, whether he performed miracles or not. It is the same guy. It's just that his followers today trust the bias of the narratives, whereas the historical method does not allow for that trust. So you're saying there was only one Jesus on earth at that time? No, there were many Jesuses alive at that time. But there was a specific Jesus who lived in Galilee and whose followers believed was the Jewish Messiah and performed miracles. Then according to your criteria, Heracles exists. If there were evidence for the existence of only one Jesus, you would have proved your point. But since there is not, you must distinguish between them all. And the only way to accomplish that is through the magical feats of the Messiah. This is me speaking as well. And I'll add, now that we know an historical Jesus is of no consequence whatsoever unless he's the one referred to in the Bible, and you've proven that there are no proven accounts of Jesus in any of your religious writings, only assumptions and assertions, what have you got left? It was at this point that M3 Panos, I believe it's pronounced, asked the following question. What standard of evaluation would you like to use when looking to decide if claimed events of the past are actually historical? I replied, those used by non-religious historians, those that use secular methodology. I don't know what that is because I'm not a historian, but whatever it is, it doesn't rely on faith. Otherwise, we can prove the historicity of anything just by believing it. He told me, the first part I don't agree with at all. The second part, yes. Saying you can only trust secular historians is just blatant prejudice, especially when you can't know the motives of their secular leanings. Were they secular before their investigation, cementing it after, or did they become secular upon their examination of evidence? I'm sure you don't want the latter, but you can't just assume that in the discipline of history, both sides, religious and irreligious alike, employ the same methodologies for examining the evidence and coming to conclusions about what is history and what is not. That's why secular and religious historians agree on facts like Jesus existed. But history is mute on the topic of healing the sick as possible, so they disagree on events of supernatural claims on philosophical grounds, not historical ones. The claims are the same, though. To him I said, that's one theory anyway. Gambleor responded to M3 Panos, thank you, someone who gets it. To that I could only say, If you believe secular and religious historians use the same methodology, then I can only assume one thing about you. The same thing you accredited to non-believers. You're either ignorant or stupid. Does the Eastern Orthodox believe in saints and the like? Because I know you don't believe the traditional Jesus of the Bible that performed miracles existed, as non-religious historians don't. So, since as you've proven, nothing in history can prove that Jesus existed, go to something else. And again, historians claim people named Jesus existed. Religious historians claim the Jesus of the Bible existed. If there is no difference in you people's minds, then you are ignorant or stupid. And if your religious historians claim what normal historians claim, then you've got nothing, as stated. And one last thing. I thought we already covered you theists insinuating that only theist historians are honest. Are you reneging on that now? No, I specifically only cited the work of atheist historians for a reason. The historical method does not support the means through which one can test miracle claims. That said, the best that a historian can say, theist or not, is that miraculous claims were made. He definitely cannot say that miracles occurred. My argument in this regard has always been that historians support the theory that Jesus did exist and was not a mythological figure. What Jesus? I had to ask him. Remember, there can only be one Jesus these people are talking about. The one from the Bible that walked on water, healed the blind, and cast out demons. No, I clearly made the distinction between the historical Jesus and that of religious piety. If this is the Jesus you believe existed, cured lepers, walked on water, that's the only one whose existence I am concerned with. Is this the one you want to talk about? If not, then my video still stands and nothing in it needs to be changed or it removed. All this other stuff is a waste of my time. The Jesus that was the impetus for Christianity was historical. That's who the narratives were written about. The claims made about him by his followers rely on their bias. It's like the way that people claim that Sai Baba, a recent mystic, doesn't exist because people claim that he can fly. Well, he can't fly, but there really is a Sai Baba. He's a real person with followers whose claims about him reflect their bias. All this means is that you do not believe Jesus walked on water, because that is a reflection of the biases of superstitious people. This means your Jesus of the Bible did not exist. You are down to a Jesus that simply went around claiming what the Jews taught is a lie and that what he teaches is truth. Now prove that guy was historical, since that's the guy you worship, in the process completely destroying all Christianity. How many times do I have to say it? I don't worship the historical rendering of Jesus. That's just a historical rendering. It's the extent to which a historian can speak on the matter of ancient persons. It does not damage Christianity in the least, and it doesn't damage atheism for him having existed. His existence as a first-century Jew cannot be used against an atheist. Well, I only said this once. You must be able to distinguish between all the people running around calling themselves the Messiah at that time. The only way to do that is through the magical feats of the Messiah. Does the Eastern Orthodox Bible state that there were many people running around calling themselves the Messiah and performing magician's tricks to prove it? Your Bible's version of Jesus are not biases of superstitious people claiming magic things for Jesus. Followers had his name. Your Bible is an instruction manual to differentiate between the many Jesus claiming to be the Messiah. If one comes up to you, ask him to do this. If he can't, kill him. The Jesus in your Bible is the only Jesus you can rely on. If you don't, you are a heretic. The Bible, as I've said many times before, is not a manual of any kind. It is a didactic tool. What you claim it is and what everything you've ever written since we've been exchanging prove two different things. If it is not an instruction manual on how to know the true Jesus, then you've completely validated everything I, in 45H3R4H, have been saying. You are left with nothing. Because if there were evidence for your claims, which there is not, you cannot prove which Jesus was the impetus for your beliefs, because the only evidence you have for any of this is a book you say is useless. No, your claim about my Bible being an instruction manual to differentiate between Jesus' claiming to be the Messiah was from the position of the way you believe it's used in the church. Guess he's a mind reader now. Historians are not killing each other or asking people to perform miracles. The church does not use the Bible as an instruction manual either. It's written after Jesus' ascension. There's no one to test anymore. Therefore, it is used as a didactic tool. When all writings were gathered into a book has nothing to do with this. You lose and continually change the topic to escape reality. Good luck with that. Evidently, it serves you well. Reread what I wrote. I said to you that the books were written after the Ascension. They weren't collected and canonized until the late 300s. The topic was the way that historians treat these texts today and what they get out of them about the figure they display as the Messiah. I've been trying to keep you on topic this whole discussion. I was going to ignore this, but since you never seem to understand what I'm writing, I'll reply. The instructional nature of Jesus' magics were tools for the ancients. It was evidence for them to distinguish between the claims of fakes that came before what contemporary or would appear. Jesus' claim that any prayer you make will be answered was its legacy of magic evidence for your belief. That makes it an instructional tool for you too. I'd like a definitive answer from you. Are you arguing for the existence of your Jesus from the Bible, walking on water and all? Or some Jesus you have in your head, no walking on water? And that will be the one I will accept was sent by your God, and we can go from there. Right now, I have no idea what you are arguing for to be the Jesus you worship, praise, or whatever you guys do with this Jesus. I am not arguing for the Jesus of religious piety. I am arguing for the historical Jesus. These are two separate portraits of the same individual. The historical portrait does not concern itself with miracle claims, and neither am I claiming anything of the sort. Someone said that Jesus never existed, and I said historians disagree. That's the second time I've answered it today. Listen to my question. What Jesus do you worship? That's as clear as I can make it a second time. I worship the Jesus of religious piety. I do not worship the historical Jesus. You mean you do not worship any of the multiple historical Jesus? Religious piety. What does this mean to you? I hear Buddha was pious. The Jesus of religious piety means the religious rendering of Jesus. Thank you. You're not Buddhist, and you told me you dabbled in other faiths till you arrived at Eastern Orthodoxy, because it explained your experiences the best. Many religions claim their founders to be pious, so piety is not your answer. It can be crossed out. All you are left with is the religion, Christianity, and what separates it from all other religions, and all heretical beliefs, its so-called magical claims. Your religion is magic. Otherwise, it is not but a self-help book with the most twisted, degenerate advice. There is only one Jesus that can have existed for your Bible to be true, a magical one. Whatever you say. Clearly only you hold the key for interpreting the meaning of the sacred texts and traditions that have been studied and practiced for 2,000 years by the church that wrote and created them. And you gained that interpretation by your own admission, by reading the Bible until you got to a part where you didn't like and then put it down and condemned it. This means a few things. The first two I answered immediately in my comments, and the rest I decided to save for this video. This also means we were talking about the interpretation of everything written in his Bible. We were not. We were discussing the historicity of the Jesus he worships. Period. A historicity he was setting out to prove. And a historicity I along with some other YouTubers, debunked at every turn. The only interpretation of the historicity of Jesus contained within the Bible is that Jesus existed. Simple as that. He attempted to make that jibe with human history and failed. It also means Gambleor has never had an original thought. He has yet to tell me why he believes any of this. He has simply taken stuff the people that believe have been writing and accepted it. Apparently in his mind, what these people are writing is objective truth, and everything I've written is subjective nonsense. How did Gambleor arrive at this conclusion? Subjectively, of course. And how does he know that his mentors arrived at their conclusions objectively? Of all the denominations out there, where did he get the notion he has some direct line to God to interpret the Bibles for him? Yes, he knows I've never read his Bible. I apparently cannot challenge his beliefs due to this fact, because I have never studied his religion. In his video, Beelzebub, Atheism's Shock of God, Gambleor went on a rant of lies. If he had studied my channel, he would never have made that video. Hypocrite till the end.